5 nights I've carried a wave home in my skull, and 5 nights you've bustled me back out your door before you'd tell me the one thing I climbed the hill to hear. You showed me where it heaps up thick. You showed me the little clocks winding along it. You showed me the flaw that won't let me pin it. The whole anatomy of the thing, laid open on your table like a watch with its back off. And not once, in all those miles up the road and down again, did you breathe a word about what moves it. So here are my terms this morning. The sheet comes off, or I stop climbing the hill.
I've had a hand resting on the corner of that cloth for a month, waiting for you to thump the table hard enough that pulling it would feel like a kindness rather than a tease. Well, the table's fairly jumping now. So take the coat off, sit yourself down, and let me hand you the one thing you've been circling since before you owned a name to call it by.
Schrödinger, there, said in your parlour at last, and the roof stayed up over the pair of us. A month you made me carry that name home unspoken, wouldn't so much as let me say it aloud on your own front step, and I've hugged it the whole way up. So out with it. What does the man's rule actually do to my wave?
Before I lay a finger on what it does, hand me back the wave as you've come to hold it. The whole inventory, every piece. Because tonight I mean to set that wave moving, and I'll not have you claiming later I swapped the thing out while your eyes were on the fire. Spread it on the table for me. What have you got?
Here's the lot of it, laid out square. The electron is a wave, a spread of Feynman's little clocks, one standing at every point, each with a length and an hour it happens to point at. Square the length at a spot and out drops the odds of finding it there. The squaring I bled a fortnight over. Where the lengths pile up tall, that's where it's likely to be. And how it's moving lives in the winding, in how tightly the hours turn as I walk my eye across. That's my wave, entire.
But hear what you just did. You laid the thing out 5 ways over and moved it not 1 inch. Heaps, points, piles. Every last verb in there is a standing still verb.
You're right, and it stings to hear it. I've a whole vocabulary for a wave that sits there, and not one single word for a wave that goes.
Every picture I've handed you these 5 nights has been the wave standing dead still. And that missing word is the whole of why I sat you down. A photograph, where it heaps, how it wins, the floor you can squeeze it to. But a photograph doesn't stir, and the electron's wave is the least still thing in all creation. It rolls. It's one shape this instant and a wholly different shape the next.
A photograph? That's exactly the burr under my saddle. I've a gorgeous still portrait, and no notion of the film it's a single frame of. So that's the reel we thread this morning. What takes the shape my wave wears right this second, and hands me the shape it'll wear a heartbeat on?
One rule does the whole of it. A single equation that takes the wave function precisely as it stands. Every clock, every height, the whole spread of it, and tells it, everywhere at once, what to become an instant later. Hand it the wave now, it hands you the wave a moment on. Turn that handle over and over, and you've reeled off the whole film from the one frame.
Hang on though, everywhere at once? It doesn't work along the wave the way I'd read a sentence, this bit and then the next bit, and then the next.
All of it in the one stroke, though not by any point reaching clear across the world. All points advance together in the same breath, not swept left to right. Each one reads its own patch of the wave, and the whole steps forward as a single thing. Not a row of dominoes tipping one into the next, a single sheet lifting all at once.
Then that has a mightily familiar ring to it, and I'd like to say why before you beat me to it. That's the same shape of promise Newton made me, back in the clockwork course. Tell me where every planet sits this instant and how each is moving, he said, and I'll grind you the next instant, and the next, clean off to the end of time. A rule that eats the present whole and prints you the future.
Nothing accidental in that likeness. Newton handed the old world its law of motion. Give me a body's place and speed now, and I'll turn you the next moment of them. This is the quantum heir to that throne. Only what it grinds forward isn't a particle's place and speed, it's the whole wave. Newton steered the specks. Schrödinger's rule steers the wave those specks turned out really to be.
So hand Newton a wave and he'd find no handle anywhere on it. His law grabs for a place and a speed, and a spread-out wave won't hold the crisp pair out for him to seize.
The reason a new law had to be forced sits right there. The old one reaches for two sharp numbers the wave flatly refuses to keep. Schrödinger's reaches for the whole shape instead, and the shape is always there to be grabbed.
So, the same office, a wholly new occupant behind the desk. Where the old master shoved a dot along its track, this shoves an entire spread-out wave along through time. And I take it the wave doesn't get to just drift off however it pleases. The rule pins every step of it down, tight, no slack left anywhere.
Give the rule the wave as it stands, and the next instant comes out fixed, utterly, tight as a drum, down to the last clock hand. There's no choice left dangling for the wave to make, nothing loose for chance to reach in and jog. The whole future of that wave sits sealed inside its present shape, only waiting to be unrolled.
You said fixed awfully lightly, and I mean to come back and jump on it with both boots. But first, I want under the bonnet. You keep saying the rule, like it's a sealed box on the bench. Crack it a crack for me. What does the thing actually look at in my wave to decide how it rolls?
Two things, and only two, and you already own the pair of them from earlier courses. The rule weighs the one against the other, instant by instant, and their quarrel settles how the wave rolls forward. Let me hand you the first, because it's been hiding in plain sight in every wave you've ever drawn.
Go on then, the first ingredient. What's the rule squinting at when it looks my wave over?
How sharply the wave bends. Its curviness, if you like, whether it's rolling along in long, lazy swells or kinking round in tight, cramped little turns. Take a stretch of wave that barely curves at all, an easy, gentle arc. Now take one that whips round hard, doubling back on itself in a tight, mean radius. The rule cares enormously which of those it's looking at. The bendiness is the first thing it reads off.
Bendiness of what, though? The height of the wave? The lean of it? I want to know precisely what I'm running my eye along to judge how sharp a bend is.
The height as it rises and dips from one point to the next. How briskly its slope turns over. A wave that changes its slope gently is barely bent at all. One that snaps its slope round hard, crest to trough in a short run, is bent sharply. It's the turning of the slope, spot to spot, the rule reads.
And why should a rule care two figs about that? Bending's just the shape it's lying in. What's the bendiness supposed to be telling it?
The motion. The bendiness is the wave's motion energy, how much go it's carrying. And you shook this thing's hand last week without ever catching its name. A tight, sharp wavelength, hours turning fast as you cross it, meant a fast electron. A long, loping wavelength meant a slow one. Sharp, curving and short wavelength are the same fact wearing two coats. So the harder the wave kinks, the more motion energy it's got clutched in it.
Then run me the far end of it, so I've got the direction dead straight. A flat wave, no bend anywhere, a straight line lying still. That's no motion at all?
None whatever. A flat line has no wavelength to speak of, no winding, nowhere for a speed to hide. Bendier is faster, flatter is slower, and dead flat is dead still. Keep the direction of it that way round, and you'll never once invert the thing.
So sharpness of the bend and shortness of the wavelength are one fact, and both of them spell speed. The more violently the wave curls round, the more go there is in it. That's ingredient one then, the bendiness, standing in for the motion energy. Now, the second thing the rule reads,
the landscape the wave is lying in. And this one you carried in from the very first clockwork nights, the hills and valleys of energy. A particle down in a valley, a particle halfway up a slope, a particle teetering on a hilltop. The lie of that country, where the energy runs high, where it runs low, all across the room, is the second thing the rule weighs. Bendiness in the one fist, the energy landscape in the other.
And the landscape sits still, I take it. The hills and valleys stay put where they're drawn, and it's the wave that does the whole of the rolling across them.
The landscape's the fixed stage, drawn once and left. The wave's the only actor on it, feeling the ground's every rise and fall, but never once shifting it. For most of what you'll meet, at least.
The hills and valleys, the potential, from the clockwork course where the ball would roll if I set it down and let go. So the rule's got the wave's own bendiness in one hand and the shape of the country it's lying across in the other. And then, what? It sets the two of them against each other somehow.
And here's the hinge you can turn with your own hands. Where the wave is sharply curved is where it changes fastest. Each point's own bendiness sets how quickly it moves. So the wave's curving and the landscape's rise and fall, weighed together, decide which way each part flows next. Where it steepens, where it slides, where it heaps and where it thins. Curvature and landscape, one against the other, hand you the next frame of the film.
So the two are forever in conversation. The landscape says, here's the lie of the land. The wave's bend says, here's how much go I've got. And between the two, they settle the next step.
Neither one alone would manage it. A wave with no landscape has nowhere to steer. A landscape with no wave has nothing at all to move. It's the marriage of the two, argued out afresh at every instant, that rolls the film on.
Let me try and work the thing then, because I've never trusted a rule I couldn't turn with my own two hands. Set my wave down in a deep valley, low country, energy sitting low all round it. What does it do? Sit tight? Slosh? Go clambering up the walls?
Picture it the way water almost behaves, but never quite. A wave heaped in a valley stays gathered, sloshing gently in the hollow, in no hurry to climb out. A wave on a hillside feels the tilt of the ground and flows, shifting its heap downhill. The landscape leans on the wave's bendiness answers back, and out of that push and shove comes the rolling.
Let me push the valley one notch harder then. Deep valley, wave sitting low in it. The deeper the floor drops, the more room there is between the wave's energy and the bottom, so the wave's got motion energy to spare, and it curls up tight and quick down there.
Here's the why to keep hold of. The wave's motion energy is its total energy less the valley floor beneath it. So the deeper the floor drops away, the more motion is left over. Down in the deep then, the wave wiggles fast, close packed, brimming with go. Climb it toward a hilltop, and that go drains away into the climb, so the wiggling stretches out long and slack. Valley to peak, the country's shape and the wave's bendiness are locked together.
So the valley cradles the heap, and the hillside sets it sliding. I can picture that plain enough. But I'll not lean my whole weight on the water because you kicked that crutch clean out from under me a fortnight back, and I've the bruises yet. Where does the water picture go wrong on me here?
Where it always goes wrong. The wave isn't wet, and it isn't sloshing one drop of anything real across your room. But there's a second place it fails you, sharper than the first, and worth having in your pocket. Real water only ever heaves up and down. This wave carries the clocks, remember. It doesn't merely rise and fall, it wins. And that winding is the second half of how the thing rolls forward, and water's got nothing whatever to lend you for it.
The clocks? Of course, I'd half let them slide off the table. So the rolling isn't only the heap shuffling about the landscape, the little hands are all turning through the whole of it as well. Then how did they come into the rule? What sets the clocks winding as the wave rolls on?
The energy, spot by spot. And mind the difference. It's the wave's total energy here, the motion and the landscape it sits in both, that turns the clock, where the bending told you the motion alone. Here's the third thing to carry, and it laces straight back into Feynman's clocks from last week. The rule sets each little clock winding round, and the rate it winds is fixed by how much energy the wave's carrying right there. More energy at a spot, that clock races round faster. Less, and it turns over lazy and slow. The clocks don't all keep the one time. Each keeps the time its own local energy tells it to.
So a wave over a lumpy landscape is a whole field of clocks winding at different speeds at once. Fast where the energy's high, slow where it's low, the lot of them out of step.
And that drifting out of step is the thing that churns the shape as it rolls, each clock keeping its own local time. Fall out of time with your neighbour, and the heights add up differently, spot to spot, and the heap shifts. The winding and the flowing are the one story told twice.
Wait. Last week it was the action winding the clock, you swore, along the road through space. Now you've got energy winding it forward through time. Are those two different windings, or the one thing caught from a pair of different sides?
There's the snag undone, and a fair one to trip on. Last week we walked the clock along a road and watched the action turn it as it travelled from here to there, across space. This morning, we're stood dead still at the one spot, watching the clock turn as the seconds go by, winding forward through time. And what sets that forward winding is the energy sitting right there. The very same clock, one face turned toward space, the other toward time.
One clock wearing two faces then, and I'd only ever been shown the one. Last week's face read across space, frozen in a single instant. This week's reads the same clock forward, second by second, as the instant slides on.
The same brass, the same hand. Only the axis you read it along has turned. Space last week, time this week. And a deep truth hides in its being the one clock, wound both ways. But I'll not go chasing that tonight.
And the pace of that forward winding is pinned against the same tiny grain as every other blessed thing. I'd wager my hat, the one out of the fire.
At yet another of its jobs, this grain, that fantastically small unit nature keeps in her own pocket, the one plank was dragged to, kicking, that first night by the fire, sets how much energy it takes to wind a clock once round as time slides by. Pile up the energy at a spot, measure it against that grain, and there's your winding rate.
That grain's holding down more jobs than the village blacksmith. It cracked the fire, it laid last week's floor, it winds the clocks along their roads, and now it sets the pace of the winding through time. Right, let me gather the machine as I've got it. The rule reads how my wave bends, which is its motion energy. It reads the landscape it's lying across, and between the two works out both how the heap flows and how fast every little clock winds forward. All of it, everywhere at once, and hands me back the wave a moment on. Have I got the shape of it?
You've got it near enough to rum it, which is all I ever swear to. Bendiness for the motion, the landscape for the lie of the ground, the energy winding each clock forward through time. Those are the wheels. And notice two motions braided into the one rolling, the heap creeping about the landscape and every clock racing round underneath. The shape flows, the hours wind, and the pair of them together are what we mean when we say the wave rolls.
And could the two ever come apart on me? A stretch where the shape flows hard but the clocks barely wind, or the reverse of it, all winding and no flowing at all.
The second of those you'll meet before the morning's out. Its shape stood perfectly still, while every clock inside it races. Hold the question in your pocket. It's the door I mean to open last.
2 motions in the one word. Good, I'll hold that. Now here comes the fight I promised you. You said a thing a while back and strolled straight past it, and I've held it like a hot coal ever since. You said the next instant is fixed, sealed inside the present shape, no slack, no choice, nothing loose for chance to jog. Did you mean that as hard as it landed on me, or were you rounding off for the visitor?
I meant it to the last hair, and I rounded nothing off for anybody. Hand the rule a wave, this exact wave, this instant, and its entire future comes out fixed. Not likely, not probably, fixed. Run the rule on a second, an hour, 1,000 years, and there's one wave and one only waiting at the end of the road, sitting inside the present shape the whole time, only waiting to be unrolled. The rolling of the wave hasn't a die anywhere in it, not one.
Now hold on a second. Do you hear what you've just gone and handed me? 5 nights you've had me white-knuckled over a universe that gambles. A thing that won't say where it is, won't say how it's moving, rolls dice at me the instant I so much as glance its way. And now, this morning, you slide across the table a rule as sober and sure as anything Newton ever set down. The wave rolls forward like a planet on rails. There's a clockwork buried in here after all.
Enjoy it. You've earned the lungful of relief, and I'll not snatch it back off you too quick. Yes, underneath the whole gambling business you've been sold, there sits a law as smooth and certain and deterministic as the old clockwork ever dreamed of being. The wave keeps not one secret from the rule. Hand over its shape now, and its entire future unrolls with a planet's own certainty. For one lovely minute, let the quantum world be every bit as tidy as you always wanted it.
After 5 nights of you dismantling my every comfort by that fire, I walk in this morning and get handed a determinism. I feel I ought to check your pockets on the way out the door.
Check them by all means, but I'd not cheer too loud just yet. I've handed you a determinism, true enough. I've said not one word about where the thing lets you actually look. That's the pocket you want your eye on.
Then I've been swindled somewhere, and I mean to find out where. You've spent 5 nights swearing the electron's the most random creature going, and now its wave rolls forward with no dice at all. Those two can't both be standing. So which is it? Is the thing a gambler or a clockwork? Where did the dice go?
Here it is then, the pivot the whole subject turns upon. So feel it land. The dice were never in the wave's rolling, not ever. The wave evolves with perfect, unbroken certainty. The randomness, all of it, every last throw, lives in one place and one place only. The instant you look.
The instant I look. So the wave itself never gambles. It rolls forward smooth and sure, its homework done to the last decimal, not a die in the doing of it. And then I walk in and glance at it. And that's the moment the dice come out of the cup.
Everything you learned a fortnight back. Take the wave's height, multiply it by itself, and out drops the odds of catching it here rather than there. That squaring, that gamble, happens only when you measure. Left to itself, unwatched, the wave simply rolls, serene and lawful. Reach in to catch it, and only then does it throw its dice and cough up one answer out of all its maybe.
So the squaring isn't a thing the wave does to itself as it goes along. It's done to it, from outside, at the one instant of the looking.
Not a moment before it either. All the rolling long, the wave is just heights and hours. No odds in it anywhere at all. The odds don't so much as exist until the look conjures them out by squaring. Leave it be, and there's nothing there to bet on.
So let me say it the way it's landing on me. for it's a peculiar shape. The universe does its homework perfectly, flawless, deterministic, not a stitch dropped in the whole rolling wave. And then, the instant somebody glances at it, it rolls dice at the last possible second. The sums are all honest as the day. It's only the reading off of the answer that's a lottery.
There's the seam, drawn clean. The lawful part and the lottery part are stitched together right at that join. The look. Roll, 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 sure as sunrise coming up. And then a die thrown, once, at the instant of the measuring. The certainty runs the whole length of the film, right up to the one frame you actually watch, and no further.
But now there's a cruelty creeping up the back of my neck, and I want to know if it's real or if I've dreamt it. The deterministic part, the wave rolling along sure as a planet, that's the part I can never actually watch, isn't it? You drilled it into me a fortnight back. I only ever see the dots. I only ever see the squared shadow.
Chase that all the way down. It's the hardest, truest thing this morning. The wave rolling forward is the one deterministic, watch it like a clock thing in all of quantum mechanics. And it's the one thing you're never permitted to see. Every look squares it away into a single dot. So the certainty is real and locked clean behind glass. What you're allowed to watch is the dice, and the dice alone.
So there's the swindle, and it's a beauty, I'll grant it that. The one part with no randomness anywhere in it is invisible to me, and the one part I get to lay eyes on is nothing but the randomness. I finally get my clockwork handed over, and it's sealed inside a box I'm forbidden to open, and the single window they've cut in the box looks out on a dice table.
The determinism is genuine, and it's tucked away underneath, out of sight. I'll not sweeten that. What surfaces to your eye is the throw. You were promised a clockwork and handed a lottery ticket. And the joke of it is that both are true at once, the sure thing hiding forever behind the random one.
Then let me make the blunder you can plainly see me winding up to make, so you can knock it flat while it's still small. If the wave's future is fixed, sealed, deterministic, no dice in the rolling, then can't I predict the outcome after all? Newton let me call the eclipse 1,000 years out. Can't I run this rule forward and call where the electron lands, just as sure?
No. And here the whole discipline of the morning comes down on you. Yes, you can run the rule forward and know the wave 1,000 years on, dead certain. But the wave was never the thing you measure. It's the loaded shape of the odds. Run it forward flawlessly, and all you hold is a flawless map of the odds. Where the electron actually lands when you finally look, that single fact the rule cannot hand you. It gives you the loaded dice, perfect to the last decimal. It cannot give you the throw.
So the certainty stops dead at the very edge of the wave. I can know the whole future of the maybe, and not one solitary future fact about what I'll actually see. Newton's clock told me where the ball would land in the field. This clock tells me only how the odds are shaped, and then hands the last word to a die I can't load, and can't read one throw ahead.
Newton's determinism ran all the way out to the thing you'd observe. The eclipse, the ball, the tide on the beach. This one runs only as far as the wave itself, and there it stops at the glass. The wave's future, certain. The outcome you'll read off it, a gamble, every time, forever. Don't let the smoothness of the one fool you into expecting the same of the other. They live on opposite banks of the look.
Then Newton's promise and Schrödinger's are cut to different lengths entirely. Newton's ran clean out to the falling apple. Schrödinger's runs out to the loaded dice and stops dead there and hands you the cup.
The old law promised you the event itself. The new one promises only the weighting of the events, and leaves the drawing of the one in the dark. All the certainty in the world about the odds, and none at all about the outcome.
Determinism without predictability, then. That's a stranger animal than plain old chaos. The future's fixed, and still I can't call it. I need to sit in that a moment. The certainty's real, it's just been quarantined, sealed off in the one room, governing the thing I can't see, and struck dumb in the other over the thing I can.
Quarantined is the very word. And now you're stood on the lip of the deepest hole in the whole subject, so mind your footing. That join you keep pointing at, this look, this measuring, the thing that flips the business from sure to random, is the piece I've told you next to nothing about. And there's a hard reason for that.
Then let's have it. What is the looking? You've made it the hinge the entire morning swings on and left it a shadow.
Here's what I can say plainly, and here's where the plain saying runs out. Quantum mechanics runs on two rules, not one, and they don't obviously belong to the same book at all. The first, when nothing's watching, the wave rolls forward by Schrödinger's law, smooth and sure and deterministic, just the way we've spent all morning building it. That first rule I hand you whole and working.
And the second, the one that kicks in the instant I look.
The second rule is the collapse. The instant you measure, the wave quits its smooth rolling, throws the dice of the squared height, and snaps, abruptly, all at once, from a whole spread of maybe, down to the single answer you found. No glide about it whatsoever. A jump. The many become the one, and every other possibility it carried just vanishes, as though it had never been there.
The others just gone. Not hiding, not drifted off quietly to some corner, gone. A whole spread of maybe, and the look keeps the one you found and annihilates the rest of them in a single breath.
A violent thing, that, set hard against the gentleness of the rolling, which is exactly why the two rules sit so badly beside each other in the one book.
So the two rules don't even move the same way. The one's a smooth glide, sure and lawful and unhurried. The other's a sudden snap, random and sharp, a whole spread guillotined down to a single point. And the universe, what, keeps the both of them on the shelf and reaches for whichever the moment happens to call for.
Two rulebooks laid out bare. A tidy, patient law for when you're not looking, and a different law entirely, sudden and violent, the instant that you are. And the world flips from the one to the other at the moment of a measurement, smooth as you please, as though it always knew which book to reach for.
And the maddening part is that it always reaches right, never fumbles the switch, never opens the smooth book when it ought to snap, never snaps when it ought to glide. Whatever draws that line, the world draws it flawlessly, and won't show us the pen.
That's the whole sting of it. Not that the world gets it wrong, but that it gets it perfectly right by a rule we simply cannot read. Every time, and mutely. The answer's plainly there in front of us, and we just can't lay a hand on it.
But that's madness, surely. Or I've missed a step on the stairs. What tells it which book to open? What even counts as a look? When does the smooth rolling stop and the snap take over the room? There has to be a line drawn somewhere, a rule for when the rulebook itself changes.
And there, right there, is the place I have to stop and be honest with you. Because that question has no settled answer. Nobody alive can tell you cleanly what counts as a measurement, nor how the smooth rolling gives way to the snap, nor even whether the snap is a true event out in the world, or something else entirely wearing its clothes. That join is the deepest unsolved thing in the whole subject. It has a name, the measurement problem, and it has no agreed answer at all.
None? After the whole of this? You can run the smooth rule to 1,000 decimals, and you can't tell me what a look even is.
We can reckon both sides flawlessly. The smooth rolling before, the odds of each outcome after. What no one alive can write down is the honest law of the seam between them, where precisely the smooth becomes the snap.
An eye? A machine? A mind? The first mote of dust that blunders into the wave and takes a reading it never reports to a living soul.
Every one of those has had its champions, and not a one of them has closed the case. Draw the line at the eye, the dial, the dust, or the whole wide world soaking up the answer, and someone can stand up and show you it's drawn in the wrong place.
Then here's the crookedness sharpened to a point. This measuring machine that does the collapsing, it's built of atoms itself, isn't it? Of electrons, of waves, of the same Rule 1 stuff we've spent all morning on. So why does IT get to trigger Rule 2? What in the world makes the machine special?
If the machine is itself made of waves that obey the first rule, where does the first rule stop and the second take over? You've walked to the sorest spot in the business, and I'll not pretend it isn't sore. Nobody can draw that line cleanly. Some say it's the machine, some the whole world crowding in. Some say there's no true snap at all, and the line's a phantom.
And you'll not pick between them for me. I can see it in your face. You're not going to crown a winner.
I'll name none of them the winner, because none has won. I could dress any one of them up and send you home certain, and I'd sooner leave the space empty and honest than sell you a confidence the physics doesn't own.
Good. That honest, empty space sits easier with me than a confident tale I'd only have to unlearn come the winter, same as the grains by the fire. So this is the collapse you named for me weeks back and slid straight under a cloth. Still under it then?
I'll not dress it up just to send you off comfortable. What you carry out entire this morning is the first rule. The smooth, sure rolling of the wave, deterministic to the bone. What stays under the sheet is the second. How and why, and even whether the wave truly snaps when the world takes its look. 2 rules, the one handed over working, the other still honestly dark.
2 rules that plainly won't shake hands. I can live inside that. It's the same clean deal you always cut me. But you've that look about you now, the one you wear with a hand already resting on a nicer door. You didn't haul me up the hill only to hand me a smooth law and a hole punched through the middle of it. There's a gift coming. I can see it queued up behind your teeth.
Before the door, let me show you one particular breed of wave the smooth rule can roll. It does a thing that ought to stop you dead in your chair, and it's the seed the whole of next week grows from. Most waves, you hand them to the rule, and they roll and spread and slosh and change their shape as they travel. But a very few, very special ones, don't.
Don't change their shape? How does a wave roll forward through time and yet not change? I thought the changing was the whole business of it. One shape now, another a moment on. A frozen wave is a still photograph again. You've just handed me back the thing we started the morning escaping.
Far from a photograph. And here's the beauty of it. The shape is frozen, the heaping fixed, the odds of place never shifting so much as a hair, and yet, underneath that frozen shape, every last clock is still winding round. The whole field of them turning together in perfect lockstep at one single shared rate. The shape holds stock still, while the clocks spin on beneath it.
Now that's a contradiction dressed up to look like a sentence. Stock still and spinning. You'll have to do better than assert it at me. I've been burned by a tidy sentence or two before.
And you're right to demand the working. I'll not ask you to swallow it whole. I'll make you build it yourself, out of a tool you already own and bled a fortnight for. And watch it stop being a contradiction the moment it's in your hands.
Now, hold on. If the clocks are all whirling round, how does the shape not change? Winding the hands is doing something. How does a wave full of racing clocks sit there looking frozen?
Ah, and there's your reward for a fortnight's bleeding. Cast your mind back. What did the squaring do to the hour?
It binned it, threw it clean away. Square the length for the odds and the hour never enters the sum. A hand at noon and a hand of the same reach at 6 square to the identical chance.
So now wind every clock in the wave forward together, all by the same amount. Every hand turns, but not one hand changes its length.
And the squaring only ever reads the length. So if every hour turns together and no length changes, the squared shape, the odds, the thing I actually see, sits stone still. The clocks are racing their heads off underneath, and the squaring is blind to every last turn of them. That's why it looks frozen. The winding is the one motion invisible to the very thing I'm allowed to measure.
You've built the whole of it yourself, and built it clean. Uniform winding is precisely the motion the squaring cannot see. The hours race, the lengths hold, the odds never budge. A wave that goes absolutely nowhere you could watch, and never for a heartbeat stops moving underneath.
So stationary is a word about the shadow, not the wave. The shadow, the squared thing I actually get to see, stands dead still. The wave itself, underneath the squaring, is winding like anything.
Nothing you could ever measure changes. Everything you can't measure is in furious motion. That's the sharpest way to hold it. The stillness is entirely in what reaches your eye, and not one scrap of it in the thing itself.
But that only works if every clock winds at the one same rate. Let a single one drift out of step, and the shape would start to churn, different lengths adding up different ways as they slide past each other.
There's the deep reason these waves are special. The winding rate is set by the energy. So if every clock across the whole wave winds at one shared rate, then the wave has one single, definite energy, the same everywhere within it, not a spread. 1. Let it be a blend of energies instead, a heap of different ones folded together, and their clocks wind at different rates, drift in and out of step, and the interference churns the shape endlessly. A blend of energies is a restless, traveling thing. A single pure energy is the one that stands frozen.
One pure energy, one winding rate, one held shape. It's a pure note, isn't it? That's the very thing from last week, a single held pitch, one tone, ringing on and on without change. The shape stands stock still, the clocks all wind in step, and the whole thing sounds at one pure energy, like a struck bell that never fades.
A pure held note the system can sound, one clean pitch, one definite energy, holding its shape while its clocks turn in unison. That coat fits to the shoulder. They carry a name, and I'll set it down light, for we don't cash it tonight. A stationary state, a standing state, a wave of one definite energy that keeps its shape and only wins in place.
And I can cash an old debt with this, last week's pure speed wave. The one immaculate wavelength, smeared flat across the whole of space, one winding rate the length of it. That was one of these all along, wasn't it? Its shape, dead flat everywhere, never changed because there was only ever the one energy folded into it.
Flat everywhere, one energy, one winding rate, a stationary state to the letter, standing still in its shape while its clocks wound the motion underneath. You'd met the breed weeks before I ever gave it a name.
And a located lump, then, my tight little electron at an address from a fortnight back, that's the opposite creature entirely. A blend of notes, clocks at every rate at once, so its shape won't hold still for a second. It has to spread.
The lump's a restless thing, built of many notes, forever sliding apart because its clocks refuse to march together, so spread it must. One pure note that holds, or a heap of them that won't, the two far ends of the one string.
A stationary state, a wave holding a single note. And I can feel you've walked me up to a door on purpose, the way you do, and stopped just short of the handle. There's a reason you saved this one for the very last. What does a wave that holds one pure note have to do with next week?
Everything. But I'll only crack the door, not walk you through it. The whole of what we've done this morning was the law that moves a wave running free. Unconfined, not walled in. An electron roaming open country, no barriers hemming it, at liberty to be any energy it fancies. But now think what befalls it if you don't leave it loose. If you pen it in.
Box it up, you mean? Shut it between walls, the way you had me shrinking that poor particle in a box last week till it couldn't so much as hold still.
Take the wave and hem it in between those walls. Trap it. Give it nowhere left to run. And here's the thing that changes the whole game. The thing I'll do no more than name for you. Once it's penned in, not every note will fit any longer. Only certain standing shapes settle cleanly between the walls. The rest don't fit the room and simply cannot survive there. The box picks out a chosen few and shows the others the door.
Only certain notes fit between the walls. That's a plucked string, isn't it? A guitar string, pinned down at both ends. It'll only ever ring at certain pitches, the ones that fit the length of it just so. The one deep fundamental, then the harmonic stacked above, and nothing whatsoever in between. You pluck it, and it sorts itself onto those notes and no others.
A string fixed at both ends sings only its harmonics. A ladder of allowed notes, with forbidden silence in the gaps between the rungs. That's your picture, and true enough. Pen a quantum wave in between walls, and the same thing befalls it. Only certain standing shapes fit, and each one that fits, being a stationary state, carries its own single definite energy. So the trapped wave can hold only certain energies, a ladder of them, rungs with forbidden gaps between.
And between the rungs, in the forbidden gaps, there's simply no wave at all. Not a faint one, not an unlikely one. A note that doesn't fit the room, just can't be sung in it.
Full stop. Not quietly, not rarely, not ever. The room permits its handful of notes and bars, every pitch between them outright. That barred, not merely rare, is the hardness you learn to love in the dark bands. And next week it goes and builds you an atom.
A ladder of allowed energies. And I think I see where you're steering me now, and it's taking my breath a little. The atom. That first night by the fire, the atom that had rungs, levels, that could only hold certain energies and no others at all. You're telling me that's where the rungs come from? A wave, penned in, only fitting the room a certain few ways.
Don't say another word of it. That's next week entire, and I'll not let you go spending it tonight. But you've seen the shape of the road plain. Trap a wave, and only certain notes fit. Each note a definite energy. The notes stack into a ladder, and that ladder is the reason an atom has the rungs it has, instead of sliding smoothly through every energy under the sun. Next time, we trap the wave. Tonight, you only needed to know the wave can hold a pure note at all.
You've done it to me again. Walked me right up to the sweetest door in the whole house and rapped my knuckles the second I reached for the handle. Fine, I'll leave the string unplugged till next week. But before you send me off, let me make good and sure I've not dropped anything on the road, because you've handed me a great deal this morning, and I'd hate to stroll home claiming more than the day actually earned me.
A wise habit, and one I'd never talk you out of. But let me lay a hand flat on the table first, about the one thing I've kept simplest of all, the rule itself. I've painted it for you as two ingredients weighed against each other, the bendiness and the landscape. That's true, and it's enough to carry. But there's a fuller face to it we haven't turned tonight. More machinery under the weighing than I've shown you.
Naturally, there is. There always is. Is this another it survives only richer affair, the way the negative survived into the clock hand, and the crest and trough survived into the whole dial? Or are you about to tell me I had even the bendiness wrong?
Nothing you learned this morning gets unlearned. That's the kind of thing it is. The bendiness truly is the motion energy. The landscape truly is the second half. The two truly are weighed against each other to roll the wave on. All I'm flagging is that the exact manner of the weighing has more under it than I've drawn. Machinery you don't need to turn the handle and won't miss until we come to it. The picture's honest. It's only not the last word.
Parked with the rest of the fleet it goes then, and gladly. One more while I've got you. You said the free wave is at liberty to be any energy it likes. So a wave roaming the open country can carry a whole smear of energies at once, where the penned-in one's driven onto its ladder of single notes.
You felt the difference in your own hands already, weeks back, without a name on it. The free wave, roaming, can be a heap of energies blended together, the way you built a located lump out of a whole band of wavelengths. The penned wave, if it's to hold a single pure note, is driven onto the rungs. Free country, any energy you please, walls around it and only the notes that fit. That's the seed, and no more of it tonight.
Free and blurred, or boxed and rung, I'll hold the pair of them apart in separate pockets. Now, the last piece of plain housekeeping before I lose the thread, same as ever, what have we not done this morning? Because I'll not walk out the door claiming the evening earned more than it did. That's a ritual of ours too.
Two things left honestly dark, no more. We've not cracked the second rule, the collapse, the snap, what a look even is, and how the smooth rolling gives way to it. That's the measurement problem, and nobody's closed it. And we've not turned the full face of the rule's own machinery, under the bendiness and the landscape, waiting on a later night of ours. So, the one open to all of physics, the other merely under a sheet.
And I can tell the two apart now, which I couldn't a month ago. An open question I'll not paper over, and an engine under a cloth I'll not tug at early. It's the plain deal you always cut me, and it fits the grains by the fire. Nobody dreamed a scrap of this up for being lovely. It was forced, cornered out of hard facts.
Not dreamed up for being lovely. Nothing in this room was ever a hair prettier than it strictly had to be. So here's what you carry out whole and trust with your full weight. A single law, sure as Newton's own, that takes the wave as it stands and rolls it forward, certain to the last clock hand. And here's the sting you carry beside it. That certainty governs only the wave, which you can never see, and surrenders the outcome, which is the one thing you can. Now, you know the ritual by heart. The last word at the door is yours, the way it's always been. So take the floor, say the morning back to me in a single breath, and I'll be listening close for the one clock among them pointing to the wrong hour.
Then here it is, the whole of it, in one breath. I came up the hill to bang the table for the one thing you'd kept from me 5 nights running. What moves the wave? And you finally pulled the sheet off Schrödinger's own rule. A single equation, the quantum heir to Newton's law of motion, that takes the wave as it stands and hands it back a moment on, everywhere at once, to the last hair. Inside it, only 2 things. How sharply the wave bends, which is its motion energy, weighed against the hills and valleys of the landscape it's lying in. And between them, they roll the heap along and wind every little clock forward, faster where the energy runs high, against that same grain out of the fire. And here's the turn that took my legs clean out from under me. That rolling is smooth and sure and utterly deterministic. No dice anywhere in it. So the famous randomness was never in the wave at all. It waits in the looking. The universe doing its homework flawlessly and then throwing a single die at the last second, right where I'm watching. The cruelty of it being that the sure part is the one I can never see, and the random part is the only part I can. 2 rules, then, that won't shake hands. The smooth rolling when no one's watching, the sudden snap when someone is, and how a look flips the one book for the other, nobody living can yet say, and you were honest enough not to pretend otherwise. But you left me a pure note to carry home, a wave that holds its shape because the winding is the one motion the squaring can't see, one clean, definite energy, ringing like a struck bell. And next week, I gather, you box that note in between walls, and only certain notes will fit, the harmonics of a plucked string. And there's the ladder of rungs an atom stands on. Next time, we trap the wave. I'll be at your door early, as ever.